There are more refugees in the world than at any time since the end of the Second World War. The causes of contemporary displacement have become ever complex as conflict, violence, and human rights abuses are increasingly intertwined with ethnic and religious animosities, acute poverty and deprivation, and environmental factors linked with climate change. An alarming number of refugees have living in limbo because of the conflicts that have gone on for years or even decades with no solutions in sight. More than half of the world's refugees are children, and if nothing changes, their children will be refugees too. So, whose responsibilities are refugees? Why are they so often regarded as a threat rather than people who are threatened? Let us discuss in this video who is a refugee, the definition, and what are the laws are there for the refugee problems in the world. So, basically 1951 convention relating to the status of refugees is the foundation of international refugee law. It defines refugees and it also differentiates refugee from asylum seeker and migrant. So, who are these refugees and asylum seeker? A refugee who has left his or her country of origin and is unable or unwilling to return there because of a serious threat to his or her life or freedom. The international legal definition of the term is contained in the 1951 Convention for Refugees and are entitled to protect from forcibly return to their country of origin. See, basically, a refugee is nothing but a person who has migrated from a country X to a country Y because of the threat to his life in the country X from his parent country. He has returned to a foreign country because of the threat from the parent country. So it is a clear definition of a refugee under the 1951 convention. We also see the exact legal definition of a refugee under 1951 refugee convention. A refugee is someone who has left his or her country of origin and is unable or unwilling to return there because of a serious threat to his or her life or freedom. And refugees are entitled to get protection from forcibly return to their country of origin. That is called the principle of non-refoulement and have other rights and duties that are set out in the 1951 convention. That is, suppose he has from a parent country he has went to a foreign country. The foreign country cannot forcibly return the refugee from their country to his or her parent country. This is the principle of non-refoulement. Who is an asylum seeker? Asylum seeker is a general designation for someone who is seeking international protection. Suppose I am a person, I just now went from my parent country to a foreign country, but the refugee, you will get a refugee status. So if a person got a refugee status, then only he is considered as a refugee. Otherwise he is considered as an asylum seeker because asylum seeker is, in a similar words, it is a refugee. Before the status he is called an asylum seeker. In the definition terms, you look, asylum seeker is a general designation for someone who is seeking international protection. In some countries it is a legal term referring to a person who has applied for refugee status and has not yet received a final decision on his or her claim. So it is this. And also we have to remember one more point: not every asylum seeker will ultimately be recognized as a refugee. However, an asylum seeker should not be sent back to his or her country of origin until the asylum claims has been examined in a fair procedure. And what about the migrants? It is equally important to distinguish correctly between the terms migrant and refugee. Conflating the two can have a serious consequences for the lives and safety of the refugees. If you see, look at the definition of a migrant given in the 1951 Refugee Convention. A migrant is best understood as someone who chooses to move not because of a direct threat to life or freedom, but in order to find work, for education, family reunion, or other personal reasons. Unlike refugees, migrants do not have a fear of persecution or serious harm in their home countries. Migrants continue to enjoy the protection of their own governments even when abroad and can return to the home safely. So, so now the 1951 convention and 1967 protocol. So what do they contain actually? The 1951 Convention and 1967 Protocol cover three main subjects. First one is refugee definition, as we seen previously, along with the provisions for cessation and exclusion from the refugee status. So basically the refugee is nothing but it is a status given to the asylum seeker after the due fair examination process. And the second subject that is there in the 1951 Convention and 1967 Protocol is legal status, rights and obligations of refugees in their countries of asylum. This encompasses the duty of refugees to respect the laws and regulations of the country of asylum and their rights in that country, including to be protected from the refoulement. And third subject is states obligation, that is responsibility of the states, including to cooperate with the UNHCR, United Nations HCR, in the exercise of its functions and to facilitate its duty of supervising the application of the convention. So these are the three subjects that are contained in the 1951 Convention and 1967 Protocol. Who is a refugee under 1951 Convention? The clear definition given in the 1951 Convention is a refugee is someone who has well-founded fear of being persecuted because of his or her race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion. That is, he belonged to a because he belonged to a particular persecuted. He was persecuted because of the following reasons: because of a race, because of religion, because of nationality he was persecuted, and is outside his or her country of origin or habitual residence. That is, second point is he is outside of his country, that is in a foreign habitat, is unable or unwilling to avail him or herself of the protection of that country or to return there because of the fear of persecution. And next is not explicitly excluded from the refugee protection or whose refugee status has not ceased because of his change of circumstances. So these are the 4 points that are mentioned to certify a asylum seeker as a refugee in the 1951 Convention. Who is a refugee under 1969 OAU Convention? Adding to the refugee definition found in the 1951 Convention relating to the status of the refugees, the Organization of African Unity OAU 1969 Convention governing in the specific aspects of refugee problems in Africa incorporates a regional refugee definition. So it is also been noted that as well as the international definitions of the refugee, there are also the regional definitions of the refugees. Those are any person compelled to leave his or her country owing to external aggression, occupation, foreign domination, or events seriously disturbing the public order in either part or whole of his or her country of origin or nationality. So that is the definition that is incorporated in the OAU Convention. And a person is a refugee as soon as the criteria contained in this definition are fulfilled. In other words, a person does not become a refugee because of a positive decision on the application for the protection. Recognition of a refugee status is declaratory. It confirms that the person is indeed a refugee. While this may sound like a technically, it is a reason why asylum seekers should not be returned to their countries of origin until the claims have been examined. And next we will see about what's under the Cartagena Declaration. Like 1951 Declaration and OAU Convention, 1984 Cartagena Declaration adds a regional definition contemplating the 1951 Convention refugee definition to include persons who flee their countries because their lives, safety or freedom have been threatened by generalized violence, foreign aggression, internal conflicts, massive violation of human rights or other circumstances which have seriously disturbed public order. So what is the non-refoulement under 1951? If you see again the definition, clear definition of what is the principle of non-refoulement: a refugee's right to be protected from the forced return or refoulement in the cornerstone of the international refugee protection. That is, the foreign country should not force the refugee to go back to his own parent country because of the threat that he possesses. It is contained in Article 33 Clause 1 of the 1951 Convention, which states no contracting state shall expel or return refouler or a refugee in any manner whatsoever to the frontiers of the territories where his life or freedom would be threatened on the account of his race, religion, nationality, membership of a particular social group or political opinion. So the obligation of a non-refoulement under the national law, nations national constitutions and legislation give effect to the principle of non-refoulement in a myriad of ways. Some refer explicitly to refugees and asylum seekers, others refer more broadly to expulsion, to a risk of torture, death penalty, other inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment, or to a treatment violating the human dignity. So, after considering this principle of non-refoulement and 1951 Convention and Cartagena Declaration, there are many regional laws. There are many regional cooperative laws that have came to for the protection of the refugees. So, till now, what we have discussed is 1951 Refugee Convention and the definition in the refugee status, asylum seeker definition, who is a difference between the refugee and a migrant, and also the Cartagena Declaration, and also the OAU Conventional Regional Convention for the Refugees Laws, and also the principle of non-refoulement. So there are many other laws that are in support of the refugee laws, that are in support to the refugee laws. There are many other international conventions that are being in protection to the refugee laws. So if you look at one by one, the Convention Against Torture. So how does it protect from the refugees? The Convention Against the Torture and other cruel, inhuman and degrading treatment or punishment. This convention has particularly significant place in international refugee law because it defines and prohibits torture and other forms of ill treatment that gives rise to. So this principle it prohibits refoulement and forced return, because the torturing is the convention on torture prohibits such an activities, and its non-refoulement provisions is not limited to the people who have been formally recognized as refugees. It can therefore help individuals who missed a deadline to apply for recognition as a refugee, that is such as asylum seekers, or who are being subject of erroneous decisions, or who are in the countries where no individual procedures exist for the determination of refugee status. So and also this is the convention against the torture. And if we look at the convention on the rights of a child, suppose half of, we already discussed that nearly 50% of the refugees are children's, and if we leave like this, their children also becomes the refugees. So the convention on rights of the child, so how does it protect the refugees? Nearly every country in the world has ratified the convention on the rights of the child. This convention applies to all the children, including those who are refugees or asylum seekers. The convention articulates four basic principles that have underpinned the treatment of children. The principles of non-discrimination, Article 2, non-discriminatory provisions for the children, and the principle of best interest of the child. So the state must follow the best, make a policy or treat them in the best interest of the children. There is Article 3, and the right to life and to survival and development of children, and right to be heard. So these are the four basic principles that underpin the treatment of all the children. In addition, the convention contains the provisions that are of particular relevance to the refugee children, that is, outlines a number of fundamental rights, including the protection from the abuse, exploitation and neglect to physical and intellectual development, and to education, adequate food and highest attainable standard of health. So these are the provisions that these are the two conventions that also help the refugees, that is the Convention Against the Torture and the Convention on the Rights of the Child, are also the conventions that suppose other international refugee laws to the people. Now if you look at the other human rights instruments that protect the refugee status, we have also already seen the protection on rights of human rights of a children, and also the convention against the torture. So what are the other human rights instruments that protect the refugees? We consider the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and also uh, Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, and Convention on the Rights of the Persons with Disabilities. You can read this Convention on Disabilities, and also the International Covenant on Economic and Social Cultural Rights, and International Convention for the Protection of All the Persons from the Enforced Disappearance, and also the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. So these are the following conventions, human rights instruments that also protect the refugees. If you look at the right to seek and enjoy asylum, The right to seek and enjoy asylum, the concept of asylum or sanctuary is accepted in all the regions of the world. It can be traced back to the ancient traditions of hospitality to philosophical teachings and religious texts. The concept is also recognized in numerous human rights instruments, notably in Article 14, Clause 1 of Human Rights Declaration of Human Rights, which establishes that everyone has the right to seek and enjoy the asylum from persecution. The legal, that is, everyone has a right. You can see here Article 14, Clause 1 of the UDHR, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Everyone has a right to seek and enjoy asylum from persecution. The legal framework established by 1951 Convention and 1967 Protocol derives directly from the right to seek and enjoy the asylum affirmed in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So, where does this 1951 Convention takes its birth or takes its spirit? The source is Universal Declaration of the Human Rights, Article 14, Clause 1, that is, everyone has the right to seek and enjoy the asylum from persecution. So, this is a source from where these refugee laws has arrived. That is, every human individual has this fundamental right to, if he or she has a threat from his parent country, then he can seek asylum. He has a right to seek asylum in any foreign country because of his persecution or threat to his life. So, if you look at the solutions, what can the parliamentarians do? That is, what does the states or a nations can do? So, one thing is, members of parliament can play a crucial role in ensuring the refugees are protected in the law and in practice. That is, we have in every state or a nation, the laws for the refugees must be included to protect their rights and freedom. So these are the following points or the following the procedures or the standards that the nations or the parliamentarians can follow. That is, incorporate the principle of non-refoulement. As we've seen, if this non-refoulement is incorporated in their law, it gives it considers their freedom, refugee freedom in their country, and review reservations and restrictive interpretations. So the restrictive interpretations and the reservations must be reviewed, and also implementing the international standards when establishing the state asylum systems, accede to international treaties is also there, and also broaden the refugee criteria is also the main thing that the parliamentarians can do. Now we will discuss the roles and responsibilities of the following stakeholders in protecting the refugees. So what who has the roles, who has the role to play, and who are all the stakeholders in protecting the refugees, we will clearly discuss. If you look at the role of executive and administrative bodies to provide a framework for refugee protection and national asylum system is needed. This requires a decision by the competent national authorities and political commitment, preferably at the highest level. Relevant ministries and their staff should be fully engaged depending on specific roles. They need to understand the key concepts and legal principles, be able to gather and assess relevant data regarding to the refugees in their country, reviewing the existing national legislation that may be applied or affected, decide what are the new legislative and the policy measures are needed to uphold the rights and freedom of the refugees, and decide what institutions needed to be established, decide whether to request technical support from the international community or setting up a refugee protection framework, ensure implementation of the measures introduced, and monitor the implementations over the time. The crucial role of the parliamentarians is parliamentarians are opinion leaders who can promote respect for refugees among their constituents and encourage informed and balanced debate on refugee questions. Parliamentarians oversee national budget appropriations and can ensure that adequate and cost effective funding is provided both to national refugee protection systems and to UNHCR as the international agency mandated to protect refugees and promote durable solutions to their problems. Parliamentarians can encourage accession to the 1951 Convention and its 1967 Protocol and to other relevant international and regional agreements. They can design and adopt national legislations and promote state asylum and systems that conform to the international standards and oversee their implementations. and responsibilities toward a particular categories of refugees. If we consider a refugees, we have to see a particular category of refugees, and we have to apply or perform the task specifically with respect to such categories. States have responsibilities towards the asylum seekers and refugees generally. They have additional responsibilities towards certain asylum seekers and refugees on account of their age, sex, disability, or other factors. So these classification will help the governments to deal with the refugee problem. Initiatives to secure the protection of the refugees and asylum seekers need to take full account of the diversity of this population. UNHCR's executive committee has recognized that some asylum seekers and refugees are particularly at risk. Drawing on international human rights standards, it has adopted three conclusions that provide the framework for a holistic approach to the needs of the following potential overlapping categories. Those are: first category of the refugees we have to look into is children's, and next women's and girls and persons with disabilities and other persons with specific needs. So these are the main vulnerable people in those refugees who are still vulnerable to the following problems, and the governments need to act in a category specific manner to contain the refugee problem.